Welcome to See For Yourself. It's the best fucking podcast in the world being recorded right now by myself, HardCorey. I'm coming straight at you. Emphasis on straight out of the mobility scooter capital of the world. And joining me tonight is Brandon, having some audio difficulties like usual, but everything's good now. So what's up, Brandon?
Yo.
Yeah, so tonight's topic, right? Mission Impossible 6. So have you watched this movie?
Yeah, man, I've seen it like 6 times in theaters, dude. Actually, I might see an additional 6 times, take a break, and then see it 6 more times.
I was thinking
so I'm really trying to hit the Antichrist out with this one.
No, I was just thinking you should leave it, having watched it 6 times, and then rate it a 6.
I mean, it does feel like a solid 6, right? I mean, it's a big mainstream movie. So really, they're going to hit that nice, like 6, maybe 6.5 bar, regardless.
So you're going to carry this whole episode, right? And take us through the plot of MI6, and then we'll kind of delve into the themes. And because I haven't seen it, we didn't fucking watch a movie. Did you actually watch that movie?
No, why would I ever watch that, man? I think I've seen like the first one, bro.
I've never seen any of the Mission Impossibles. The zeitgeist passed me by like the ghost that is. So we're going to talk about other shit instead, because fuck that movie and just fuck movies generally. I've been watching too many of them, man. You get sick of trying to cram a bunch of episodes in. I'll tell you though, this is true. This is some real shit. Tom Cruise never had to deal with anything like this. I had an acid flashback last week, man. This isn't the build up to a joke or anything. It's just some real shit that happened. I didn't think that those were real. I just thought that was the kind of thing that you told, like dickheads told people who are tripping on acid to scare them for fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a real thing. I was at work and I was just doing my normal, typically I'm checking like electronic locks, because a lot of times we have failures in the network. And so I have to actually go out manually and check a building. And so that's what I was doing. I was walking across a bunch of grass and I checked out this fallen branch on the ground. And I'm looking at this weird ass moss on this branch. And I'm like, God damn, why is that so stark and shiny? That looks fucking weird. And I just felt this like weird, like thrill, like ripping up my nerves. And I recognized the feeling immediately. I was like, holy fuck. It was coming up on acid was the feeling. And so like my mind immediately went to like, what did I eat? What did I drink? It was all shit that I had at my house. I didn't like go out and buy breakfast or anything that morning, because it was still like 8 o'clock in the morning. I was like, there's no fucking way I got something that was dosed. But that's the only logical explanation, because I'm clearly coming up on acid right now, about to start tripping at work. What the fuck am I going to do? My mind immediately went to because I remember this story from back in like 2011 where a dude got arrested in Florida for walking around like a fucking Walmart or Kroger or whatever the fuck they have down there, Publix, and injecting packages of ground beef with LSD with a syringe. So that was a thing that I knew was feasible because it was in the news. And I'm like, that had to have been what happened. Somebody grabbed those protein bars that I bought, fucking shot them shits full of LSD. And here I am now. I'm going to have to go explain to, the fucking police officers that I work with that I got to go home.
I had some dosed meat.
Yeah. Or some toast protein pastries or some shit.
Yeah. So and instead of USDA, it's like US LSDA.
LSDA, right? LSDA approved, dude.
Hell yeah.
But yes, I just wrote it out. It was like a solid 10 minutes, and I just kept getting higher and higher and higher. And I'd finished my inspection. I got back to my car, and I was like, all right, I got some time. I'll put my report in. Like trying to look at the screen, and shit's like all squiggly with fractals and stuff. And then it just calmed down in like a minute. It just dropped down to nothing, and I was like, holy shit. That's what people talk about when they talk about acid flashbacks.
It's kind of like you hear from people, and they're like, when they get really into the whole like acid casualty thing, and they think they're like Jesus Christ and the Buddha and the devil and God. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, bro, like monks can like enter like DMT states just by like breathing. And it's like, yeah, okay. You should have just straight up meditated.
Right. Right.
You could have unlocked the fucking emptiness of the cosmos, dude, reached nirvana and never had to do another podcast again.
And still just been, and still been actually like functional,
Yeah.
But yeah, that shit's scary, dude. That's the kind of stuff that scares you into like never wanting to do drugs ever. But until it's happened to you, then you don't care because you're like, no, man,
it's all fun and games until you're sitting next to your buddy on a random afternoon and going, after rambling about like random connections between things that don't make any sense for like 20 minutes, stopping and going, all those mushrooms I've done have made me insane. I'm an insane person. I was like, it's okay, bro. I sat there while you were fucking, it was like Halloween night and he was tripping out and he's like, the fire really likes the moon and the moon loves the way that the fire's dancing. And like he assigned them both genders and shit. And I'm just like, hey, pass the whiskey, bro. I'm just here to drink.
I like the way this alcohol dances. It loves my villi.
Yeah.
My villi loves the way this.
Well, he was convinced that they were like communicating somehow, and I was like, okay, but like, what are you getting off the moon?
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a difficult thing, right? Thoughts and dealing with them and all that shit. But yeah, don't do too much acid, kids. All the kids listening, because we've already established that kids are our number one audience. We set it up that way. Nah.
Yeah, on YouTube, it's actually set that this content is made for kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we can't say fuck within the first 10 minutes.
Right. Well, we save all the fucks and crazy shit and gore for the end.
Yeah, right.
Which is what they do with Mario videos on kids' YouTube.
Oh, no shit.
They actually do, bro. It's crazy. I've seen it with my kids. Like, they'll be watching something, you're like, waha! And all of a sudden, like, fucking, like, Mario's eyes are falling out and shit. I'm like, okay, that's enough.
No, man.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I'm for trolling, but mostly just, like, irresponsible adults getting their goat.
Yeah,
but don't bring kids into it.
For real.
You're not supposed to fuck with kids. That's fucking weird. Yeah. Anyway,
so what are we actually talking about?
What we're actually talking about is we had a couple things, kind of lead into them one after another, organize them all. Yeah. We got. We were talking about these video games, right? And we're kind of talking about the reaction of these video games and the idea that reaction comes from something a little bit neurotic that seems to be pervasive in the whole. I don't even know how far you want to extend this, but at least the North American consciousness, right?
Bro, that shit goes back to like fucking Aristotle, dude.
Well,
Heraclitus, even.
We can't go back a long way.
We can go back.
Yeah, we can go back a long way, but we'll start small, right? So the Game Awards, not even the awards, but what is this? There's the Sony. What the hell do they call their thing, man? The State of Play or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So their shit came out. I was checking out some of the new games, and there was some that I was actually pretty excited for because we've said it before. We're big gamers here at See For Yourself.
Yeah, I skip through and like look at the timestamps, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's see what Neo 3 looks like. Oh, Ninja Gaiden. Okay, is there anything else on here? Nah, dude. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. It was about 12 minutes of skipping around, and I wasn't even watching the actual presentation. I was watching somebody's breakdown of it, and that was the one. Neo 3 came up. We checked out a couple others and a couple others. This is
what are you,
country boy?
No udders?
No,
I know what that is. Can you believe it? I'm from California.
There's not a lot of livestock around me right now. I do come from.
I wasn't even saying udders. There's this like Michigan, like Upper Peninsula, Lower Peninsula divide, and they have this stupid
the
ass
Yoopers,
saying,
dude.
Yeah, the Yoopers, bro. Anyway,
weird folks. Weird folks. Don't really
So
consider
was
him
that
American.
video that you watched, the compilation, was it titled like "Gaming is fucking dead"?
Yeah, it was. It was like that. It
Was it
like
Synthetic Man?
it was no. Hang on, who was it?
What's his other lackey? What, the EGAD or whatever?
Yikes, man! I don't really know for sure.
I don't know. There's a million of them, like a million of those channels.
Those
are the two that come to mind.
They all blend together. Synthetic Man is funny. I like his videos because he's actually legit funny.
Yeah, I like when he breaks down on a stream and gets all depressed and starts talking about like, you know, being into like food porn and shit. That's the real guy right there.
That's the funniest part. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why it's worth watching it. You just wait around for like people to goad him into saying things, or he just gets all sad and shit and like starts like admitting the depressed details of his life. And it's like,
I was watching him stream tonight. He was playing Dragon Ball Breakers or whatever.
I almost clicked on that.
Seems like a really shitty game. I couldn't, sit around and just watch. There was nothing interesting going on, but I was curious what his streams were like, I guess. But I guess if you're into the game, whatever. But anyway, that's pretty much the gist of it. Is all the shit that's coming out that's even remotely interesting is basically sequels. And these sequels that we're looking at are a lot of them were based on Soul's Core, right? So this is something that's been completely run into ground. Soul's Core is the Metroidvania of the 2020s, right?
Yep. And now hack and slash is coming back, dude. Like every game that's coming out now is hack and slash, which I'm not opposed to personally, but it's going to get run to the ground again.
That's an interesting thing too, because that whole genre was like so kind of like definitively like delineated in the early 2000s, right? And it continued for a while, but there wasn't that much of a difference between like what was Devil May Cry, like 2002, 2001, maybe even. It was like early PlayStation 2. So had it been 02 or 03 or somewhere. And its stuff hasn't really changed much since then. It's kind of just been making things a little bit slicker, adding cooler moves, making it flashier. But then it kind of all it devolved really into all this Soul's Core slop that cribbed a lot of stuff from the like what they eventually began to call character action, like that was one of those labels that gets like retroactively applied to a genre, right? Once you kind of can see the pattern from temporal distance. But now that it's coming back, because I caught a glimpse of a handful of these games as well, and you were talking about Morbid Metal, not to be confused with the
roguelike thing.
Yeah, right. And so there's another thing is roguelikes. I reckon that it'll be interesting to see this kind of stuff that comes up in the hack and slash, having incorporated all this stuff that kind of branched off of hack and slash in the last decade or so. See what it'll kind of like bring back into it.
I'm interested to see like if anyone takes it forward in any way,
That's the thing, right? Is that's the only way things really do go forward, is kind of once you hit the apex of a style, because we do hit apexes, and you can basically only do variations on a theme from there until you just need to like quit and pursue another genre. And I'm talking about kind of like the industry as a whole, and what people play and like what gets developed. But what gets interesting is when you have a genre that hits it big and then it peters out, and you have other genres pick up from there. And then you eventually find out that a lot of these other new genres are basically just kind of like fragments of the original, kind of like that had features get hyper fixated on. And then when people start to realize that and piece together like where these mutations came from, and they get back to kind of like the original DNA sequence, then they start to graft these new mutant offshoots back on to the original, and that's when we actually get interesting developments in a genre.
Yeah, true. I mean, music's the same way, right? Like someone will take like a specific like riff section of like one band and develop that into its entire own sound, right? And
Exactly.
things just kind of
Norsecore, dude.
proliferate from there. Like, oh, I like what those guys are doing, and then over time, it kind of even gets forgotten, like where it came from. And it was like, oh, this like 25-second snippet. I mean, fucking look at the fucking breakbeat, right, dude? That was just like little like 6-second loops that they pulled probably from like random jazz samples, like way back in the day, and it was like a section of a fucking drum solo part.
Yes, exactly.
And that shit becomes like an entire genre, dude.
Not just one genre.
No,
yeah,
I know, not just one
genre
like
either.
multiple. I mean,
it kept on developing. Yeah, which is crazy. Now it's not something we're ever going to see. We're never going to see people graft, schizo breakcore shit back onto jazz or anything like that. But yeah, that is how stuff works. It is interesting like that. And we did see Mortal Shell 2 looks like it has shooting in it, so that's kind of dope.
Yeah, that was crazy. It almost looked like it was like somewhat. Not really futuristic, but definitely set in like an industrial time, which is cool.
Right. It reminded me of The Remnant right away.
Yeah.
Which that was a game that I really wanted to love, but dude, procedural generated levels are never going to be good. They're just never going to be good.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like with the Souls games is like the main draw of them, at least with Dark Souls and some others, like it would be the exploration aspect of it and finding these like curated sort of experiences, and then making it all random kind of takes all that away, and then you're left with only the bare bones kind of basic bitch combat. And it's like, yeah, man, this isn't really enough.
It's nowhere close to enough. It sucks, actually. It becomes so rote. I fucking dread so many roguelikes due to that, where it's just like, oh, I recognize this room for the fucking 150th time,
Yep.
Yeah, there are different enemies in different spots, but they're just randomly selected. It's not like somebody was like, oh, it would be interesting if you had to deal with this guy on a ledge, but then there was also this guy on the ceiling that's coming to shoot down at you. There's no thought put into it at all like that. Like there's nothing's orchestrated.
Yeah, I think Night Rain has the same problem. I mean, I haven't played it, but I've watched people play it, and it's okay, you're seeing the same like 3 levels, but mostly it's that not Limgrave, it's Limvale or whatever the fuck it is. And it's like, just random enemies haphazardly placed in, and I don't know, man, like I don't really see the appeal of it. I don't think the combat, like they've done enough with it to really have that be the focus,
I think the selling point of that was going to be the team combat,
which they fucked up royally.
What happened there?
So no crossplay for one. There's no option for duos. A lot of people will just straight up leave if they think a run is like just off to a bad start.
Man.
So yeah, man, it's not good.
Man, well, that's a disappointment. That's disappointing. But that game was obviously a kind of placeholder anyway. I was cheering for it, because I want that company to make money and keep giving us better stuff. But
give me another Armored Core if you're listening, FromSoft, please.
Oh shit, Armored Core
AC6 was good. I fucking like know of FromSoft from Armored Core. All these fucking these Zoomers, dude, and these millennials. I mean, I am a millennial, but they're like, yeah, dude, FromSoft, Dark Souls, and it's like, well, hold on. The only reason why I played Dark Souls is because I saw it was made by fucking FromSoft.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
never would have cared otherwise.
No, here's another weird thing. It's like every time an Armored Core game pops up, then it's like a bunch of people get into it for the very first time. Like when Armored Core 3 came out, from like there to Last Raven or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That was like a whole, like everybody that I talked to about it, they had no idea about any of the Armored Cores that preceded it. Like they didn't know about any of the PlayStation. They didn't know Master of Arena or Project Phantasma or anything like that. But they were all into 3 and its few sequels. And then like 4 came out and nobody gave a fuck. And then 5 came out, and then everybody was into 5, but they didn't know about 3 or any of the ones that came before that. It's a really weird thing. I guess it's just because they spaced the games apart so much. But that series has a weird life cycle. But yeah, I'm all for it. I want another one. Speaking though, I did pick up a weird looking indie game, and sorry, I got to take a drink. I know
I
that
liked AC5, man. That shit was cool. It was hard as fuck to control, though.
Yeah, that's one that I missed out on. I'm gonna have to get 6 and see what all the fuss is about for that one, because every single Armored Core game has been like a solid 7.
Yeah,
there's never really been a great one, but if you like what's going on in the game, then it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think the best one was clearly like For Answer, but just because it was just everything was over the top. I mean, I would love to just have like a remaster of that game where like the fucking backgrounds aren't just like giant polygons, you know, or whatever the fuck.
Oh,
it was such a cool game, dude. Like the world design, like concept of it was sick, bro. Like fighting these giant fucking like walking or fortress things, whatever the fuck they were, dude. Like could have been better done, because I think a lot of them were like really stupidly easy, and then there's like a couple that were like, holy shit, like this is destroying my ass.
It was the coolest looking one. I like the aesthetic of that one more than anything else, because it was more sci-fi,
clean, like sci-fi futuristic ass aesthetic, dude. It was so good.
Yeah, it looked hella slick. Yeah, I like the look of that one the best out of all of them. And it was weird that they kind of 180 and went more into like the gritty urban setting with 5, but well, you know,
yeah,
we're gonna do something different every time. Did you checked out Doll's Nest?
No, I don't think so.
This is like, I know that you're not a fan of the whole like anime aesthetic, but it's like Armored Core controls in a Souls-like setting where you're exploring like gigantic levels and dealing with limited healing and ammo and stuff like that. Seems kind of cool. Kind of just like a weird.
I played like Deus Ex Machina, which was made by one of the ex Armored Core devs, and that had the whole like anime ass aesthetic to it, which is pretty hard to swallow. But the game was solid, and apparently they're making like a sequel.
I don't know if I ever checked that one out. Deus Ex Machina. This is not related to Deus Ex.
Not related, but okay. You know, the same stupid name. Anyway,
people need to come up with better names. This is a thing that I thought of when we were talking about grafting genres together. You know, this whole like liminal spaces and analog horror fad.
Yeah.
So this started, right? Somebody took a picture of a hallway with no people in it, and they posted it up on whatever the fuck it was, Reddit, 4chan, and they were like, it was just that photo, which is, the photo itself was completely insubstantial. This is the point I'm trying to make. The photo itself was totally insubstantial. Didn't mean anything. Didn't actually have any kind of, aesthetic quality to it or anything in particular noteworthy. But it was the text that they posted it with, where they mentioned that there was something like unnerving or unsettling about empty spaces like that. And people just ate that up in the dumbest fucking way. And I swear that if that picture itself has no real expressive capacity of its own. It was the fact that it was juxtaposed like this completely mundane, boring ass, pointless photo juxtaposed with the notion that it might be unsettling. That was what it was that actually got people on board with the idea of like liminal spaces, like these places that you feel like you're not supposed to be, or you just feel like something's off. And it's just like pictures of empty shopping malls, and it's like, what's going on with this? Did your mom leave you when you were a kid? Did you get lost at the mall and you just never got over that? You just had nightmares about it?
I think it's just related to, I mean, obviously if it's posted on a fucking image board, these people all grew up playing games, right? And especially if you're dealing with like old ass like PS1 graphics and shit. Like just those spaces with nothing in it that you have to traverse just have this weird quality to it. And you know, with the way that the graphics kind of like the edges, let's say, of like, you know, the wall and then the ceiling, they kind of always move around. Everything seems like it's always moving, right? When you're
Yeah.
walking through and the textures are kind of just moving around and shit. It's a really unnerving feeling. And someone must have just gotten that same sense when they took that picture or something. Kind of like your acid flashback, you know what I mean? And went wild with it.
Yeah, I guess. Because I've been checking out some analog horror series, and every one of them is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
There's nothing good or interesting about any of them.
Yeah, I watched one about like some alien invasion. I don't remember the name anymore. It was one of the better ones I've seen, but it still wasn't like anything fantastic, you know?
Nah, it's and that's the other thing, is this weird fascination with like the analog medium itself. And I don't really know if it's like, because here's another juxtaposition, right? Is like we've got this whole thing about like whatever you put on the internet lives on the internet forever, right? So, you know,
if only that were true, I'd be able to find links from like 5 fucking years ago, but I can't.
That's the thing, is like, yeah, it's on there forever unless you actually want it to be, and you can't fucking find shit anymore. But it's the warning that you give to, you know, young dumb people to like, don't send nudes. They're going to be on the internet forever. Like, you tell people that, and it's not a bad, you know, not a bad.
It's good advice. It's just wrong.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like you know, people in the wild or whatever. It's like, oh, is that a bear over there or is it a rock? It kind of looks like it might be a bear. Instead of going over and investigate, you just assume it's a fucking bear. You know, you survive either way.
Right. Be on the safe side. Be on the safe side, but people also see that, you know, their favorite YouTube video gets taken down. Like, what happened? Or like an uploader will just disappear. They'll just disappear off the internet. Or one of their buddies in a chat room. They don't even call them chat rooms anymore. What the fuck am I talking about? But you know what I mean? Somebody will just disappear. And so, like, there's this
alt-right Discord server will get nuked, and then you'll never talk to anyone in there again.
Dude, that'll happen. But there's a sense of malleability and impermanence to the stuff that you like. You know, stuff can just get taken down. Websites can go offline. You know, like you said, servers can crash. So you never really know. And compare or contrast that with analog media, which is it's not infallible. And like that's emphasized in this analog horror with like this, you know, like the tape snow, and you know, the distortion from like actual like analog tape reel and all this kind of stuff that they like artificially put into the videos. So the stuff is not infallible. Like it's susceptible to decay, but not tampering. So there's a thing there. I don't know exactly. I haven't been able to put my finger on it, but there's a thing there about this medium that is able to persist over long periods of time and like be, you know, immune to tampering or reversion some way. If somebody wanted to like trick you, there's actually nothing that
you would
they can
have
do
to
with
actually
this.
physically go to a location to destroy something.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, there's the actual location of the object, like as a thing in and of itself that you have to, you know, put into a player in order to experience what's going on. So it's definitely there's a romantic quality to it, right? Because it's like it's just me seeing this right now, as opposed to just like, oh, you know, oh, I found a weird YouTube video. Like, here's a link. Oh, now everybody explains it. It's not weird anymore immediately. So.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like everything is demystified almost immediately. There's always a rush to understand any piece of media that comes out, like even before it's even out. You know, you've got guys like analyzing trailers and shit.
Yeah, 45-minute breakdown of this, like, you know, 90-second trailer. Yeah. So that's a part of it too. Is there's definitely a mystique to stuff that you find, and there's also this weird obsession with like quote unquote lost media, right? like, you guys all remember this cartoon and like it had this kind of stuff in it and this kind of stuff. And but like you said, it is immediately demystified. Like, yeah, there's fucking what 3.5 billion people on the internet. Somebody knows what you're talking about. None of your experiences are special to you.
Yeah, but it's like, you want to share and you want to talk about this stuff too, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
So that's the thing. And there's just so many people getting in there that it just happens at such a rapid fire pace. Ordinarily, it'd probably just be like, pre-internet, it'd be like a conversation between you and your friends, and you'd probably never really talk to anyone else about it, right? It might even take years for you guys to come to some sort of conclusion.
Yeah. But as soon as other people are like, yeah, like I know what you're talking about, they put a name to the thing, they give you information and data about it, maybe some websites to reference, like that immediately eliminates any kind of like unknowns about it. So it becomes much less potentially scary.
It's probably why people liked the Souls game so much, because, the lore is just hidden deliberately, like you actually had to piece it together. But now, you've got the channels, right? 1 hour fucking lore video, dude, on the text dump on one fucking item. Like, ooh, what does this mean?
I eat that shit like it's pizza, dude. So yeah, absolutely. And still the cool part about that is it's still largely speculation. Like that people do autistically piece stuff together. But, there's never any like, it's not like an ARG where if you like find enough information like scattered here and there, then you can eventually piece together a complete picture that can't be, gainsaid in any way by anybody. And there's still some degree of like, yeah, but I mean, what if that makes sense? But what if, and like nobody else has really emulated that so well as Souls did. And that was so smart, making a community oriented community around that game. Right.
What's really funny about that, man? People do this for like Zelda, and they've done it for years. And then I guess like the new one came out, and all these channels are just like, fuck it. Like, it never meant anything. They don't care. Nintendo doesn't care. They had all these things in there, and we thought it was going to lead to something, but it just fucking didn't. And I'm like, come on. Like,
are you talking about the guys that try to like piece together the Zelda timeline?
Not just that, but like the lore and like the different stuff. And it's like, the whole goddess thing in Ocarina of Time, it's just there. It's just to provide a little bit, but it doesn't serve any like crucial elements of the plot or like nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So, the goddess has created this triangle, and here you go. All right, see ya. Go play.
Right. And I remember that too. Because I Link to the Past came with my SNES when I got it for Christmas as a kid, and I remember that and just being like, oh, dope! Like that tells me everything that I need to know. Like you literally could just have told me like there's 3 triangles and they're important when you put them together, and that would have been fine too, because that's the kind of shit that you're used to in video games. Nobody explains why there are coins in Mario. It's just like a visual placeholder to like indicate value, right?
Yep.
So like that's the kind of stuff that you're used to if that's the kind of games that you grew up with, and like you're kind of used to filling in the blanks for yourself when you see something, and like so long as it conveys whatever it's meant to represent like mechanically, then it's all good. Games are only frustrating when they use weird ass graphics that didn't convey stuff intuitively. But now stuff, people have this weird tendency to really need things spelled out for them, and they go to really great lengths. I don't know if did you ever read about the Earthbound and God, what's that real fruity indie game that everybody was super obsessed with?
Oh, Undertale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Undertale. There's all this stuff about like these take place in the same universe, because at one point there's this thing that looks like that might be Ness's Thunder Badge, and like
it's fucking wild. No,
dude,
it's just a clear line of influence. Earthbound was somewhat of a troll against like making fun of like RPG shit. And Undertale takes inspiration with that and kind of goes its own direction. Like, okay, like it's comedic.
Yeah, but for some reason, it's this whole thing. Like we've talked about fandoms before, but like the deepest, darkest, sweatiest parts of the fandom we'll get obsessed with like canonicity, right? Like determining what stuff actually happened in this universe to characters, like it was a real place, and like it actually matters that they like maintain a thorough history of all this stuff and like reject stuff that didn't actually happen, even though canonical work is just whatever the fuck the author wrote. If you have multiple authors writing like the same character and like adding different stuff to all that shit is canon. All that shit is technically canonical. There's never necessarily any like one single continuity, and like comics were a huge, like this was a clusterfuck in the DC comics I know, and eventually they just said, well, you know what? There are 52 worlds where all the different DC superhero comics happened. All of them are canon. They're just in different worlds. And then they had this actual cool kind of meta thing where they started, explaining how the worlds were related. And they had this like grander, like meta universe where different Supermans from different worlds would like meet each other. So like they did a cool thing with it.
So at first they were like, oh, you fucking nerds, look, it's 52 different worlds, whatever. And then they're like, well, shit, you know what? Maybe we could do something fun with this if we're just going to throw that out there. I mean, that's respectable.
Dude, DC had the best writers and the most creative ideas for sure for all their characters. But for the most part, it's dumb stuff like, do I say it? Am I going to say it? Oh, or do you know what I'm going to say? Sonic the Hedgehog. When it comes to people talking about those games. No. And you got like the comics and like the TV shows and stuff, and they're all different. And it's like, don't you just like Sonic? Don't you just want to see Sonic do cool stuff? Like, why not? Like, how is that not gonna? How is it that you have to have, like, how does it make you feel safe and comfortable to insist that other people respect what you truly believe was Sonic's actual, like, historical continuity, where like some stuff didn't happen, but some stuff did. And it's just like, I don't understand. I understand why people need to do that.
Well, they just want to have it. So like Eggman is always building the Death Egg and it always gets destroyed by Sonic. So we're just going to relive Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic and Knuckles forever and ever.
Well, see, and that's the crazy thing, right? Is that the people who are writing this stuff perpetuate that, sort of neurosis, because that's what they're trying to do, is perpetuate their whole, intellectual property.
It's a Star Wars thing, bro. It's got to have ATSTs, dude. It's got to have the fucking Death Star. It's got to have Darth Vader. No one gives a shit.
Because they told a story good one time, and then why not just keep doing that over and over again? That, it is Star Wars. It is. I remember when, for the Phantom Menace came out, I was just a kid, dude, like maybe 11. I was actually talking about this with my younger sister. She wasn't even born yet. And I went to see it in theaters. And I was just like, this is just Return of the Jedi. Like, it's the exact same fucking thing. You got guys having a space battle. While down on a planet, you got like this native low-tech tribe versus like the high-tech weapons of the bad guys. And then you've got, like the princess, the fucking literal princess, breaking in.
At least she's an actual princess this time.
She's a queen. Amidala's a queen.
Dude. I'm sorry.
Close enough, dude. Princess Queen. It's one step apart. And but yeah, she's like breaking into like the headquarters with her little crew of like rapscallions.
Hold on.
Like,
can I say something?
Of course.
If Leia was a princess, right, and like she was not technically the heir, right, but she was like the adopted. Who cares? Whatever, right? Her adopted mother, who was the queen on Alderaan, she got killed, right? So at that moment, shouldn't she have became queen?
Yeah, queen of nothing.
So she should have been like queen. Yeah, I know, queen of nothing, but like they could have just stopped calling her Princess Leia. Either started calling her queen, or maybe they just dropped it, didn't they?
They quit calling her Princess Leia. Well,
after what the fucking first movie,
Han Solo kept calling her that, but it was he was what do you call that when you like somebody and so you try to say things that demean them?
Yeah, dude, exactly.
That's what he was doing.
Go off, queen.
Yeah, yeah. Queen of space dust. Yeah, so liminal spaces. an interesting thing, probably something that I'll get back into again, because I have been getting into analog horror because I want to like it, is the thing. Because I like, you remember SCP, like how big that got? The secure, contain, protect, or
No.
whatever.
No,
it's kind of interesting. It started off as like a writing project where anybody, like, the whole premise was that there was this organization that dealt with like anomalous occurrences on Earth and in space, like in the real world. Like the idea was that they were in our real world.
And I've heard of that now. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay. I don't need the background.
Okay.
Just clicked.
Right. So some people actually wrote real interesting stuff. I read a full-on novel length story about this. It's called "There Is No Anti-Memetics Division," and like what it was these people dealing with some kind of like, it wasn't even really truly like an entity unto itself. It was just kind of like a chain reaction that was deleting knowledge of stuff from people's minds. And so the SCP Foundation like created this specific group that was supposed to be immune to it, because what was happening was people were just like showing up to work and like forgetting about stuff. And then it kind of went on from there. And then they eventually found out that if enough people, if like everybody forgot about a thing, then the thing would just disappear. And so they were concerned about if, everybody forgot about like who they were or like what Earth was, then it would just, vanish. So it was an interesting sort of like inward and outward.
It's a cool tie-in to what we were talking about with the internet, just losing shit.
Right. And I mean, they even called it the anti-memetic threat. So like memes are right there. And that's kind of what they, it's what they are. It's a little tiny like capsule of opinion and in-group loyalty and all that implies. So yeah, when those things go away, then I mean, in the internet, we see the opposite thing where people start inventing memes and then kind of like retroactively ascribing them properties. You remember the whole experiment with the fucking frog on a unicycle?
Yeah, I never got that one.
That's because some journalist just made it up and started posting it around. There was no origin to it besides that. He was just like, this is how memes work. It's fucking stupid. It was really actually a really great little experiment.
Hey, man, journalists did something right for once. No way.
Hey, man, like journalists, yeah, they did one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to video games, and this is like, video games are over. Like gaming is done. Gaming is doomed. All this kind of stuff. You made a point as we were talking about this that there's this reflection that specifically was a reflection of this sort of how to say, like, I already said neurosis, so I'm not going to say that again.
Well, yeah, that's somewhat tangentially related. It's just the whole like apocalyptic millenarian like DNA in our culture, right? Like the end of the world's always around the corner, bro. Fucking Y2K for video games. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this shit goes way back.
Y2K is a good touch. Yeah, Y2K is a good touchstone.
I was just reading a random comment on YouTube the other day, and maybe it was YouTube. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. The guy was like, yeah, man, like I read this book that was published in like 1988, and someone was like interpreting all these signs from Revelation, dude. And I was pretty convinced when I was younger and naive, that it was going to happen. Then here I am, nothing fucking happened. I'm sure you've had this happen. A lot of people have. I was sitting in a car, dude, with a coworker that I had the misfortune of having to drive somewhere with. And he was going off about the end of time shit, and he's saying, "Oh my God, like the eagle, dude, the eagle in Revelation, it's America. America has the bald eagle." And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, "That's the Roman eagle, bro. Like, chill. I'm pretty sure the fucking book is about Rome." But yeah, it's just it's so pervasive, and these things happen like cyclically, dude. I don't know the exact like interval that it happens. Let's just say 5-10 years. Fuck it, every decade. there's some like new like this is dead, this is the end, Western civilization is fucking over, dude. But it never happens. There was this blog, Arch Druid Report, I want to say, and he ran this segment after all of his blog posts for like a year, and he called it End of the World of the Week. And he actually went through and found all of these crazy end of the world fads, dude. And he went way the far back with it, man. I mean, we're talking like Victorian shit. And it was great because it puts that stuff in perspective.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're old enough to remember the 2012 thing, right?
Yeah.
Where like the Mayan calendar was going to end. It's like, well,
I
mean, these people were really smart, right? Right? They figured out constellations, and so it makes sense that because they didn't make a calendar that goes past this point, then there's just no more time after that.
Or like, there's gonna be like some awakening, bro. We're entering the age of Aquarius, dude.
Yes, dude. The age of Aquarius will be upon us, dude.
Yeah.
The fucking tall Nordics will come back.
Human consciousness is gonna fundamentally alter. You know, it's like what the fuck ever.
We'll all be elevated to the fourth dimension. The Aquarians are gonna make contact, and they're gonna explain 0 point energy.
Finally, the Hyperboreans will return from Algol, dude, on caravans.
They're just talking about white people, right?
Literally, yes. The Neanderthalic dreamers, dude, they actually projected to Algol, and now they're coming fucking back.
My baby is an indigo child, and he channeled and he told me one night that is exactly what was going to happen. And he told me that it was during the 2012 end of the Mayan calendar, but that our calendar is wrong because there's 1,000 years of lost history in the medieval times because we can't account for the way that technology advanced between, using trebuchets at other people and then having a motor car. Explain that.
Yeah, it's funny because like Rome had like steam engines and shit, but they didn't really like use it for anything. They just thought it was like a fun toy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like these technologies get invented. They just don't get used for shit because no one really put two and two together.
I mean, we had electric cars in like late 70s?
Yeah, it just wasn't the infrastructure for it.
Right.
So I guess the other dimension to it that's relevant to video games and it's dead is obviously the obsession over like DEI and woke, right? Like we're just at the progressive liberal end of what used to be the right wing, deal with like heavy music and rock and shit, doing the PMRC and the crazy evangelical era of like the Reagan Thatcher times, it's just the same shit. The pendulum just swings over and over again. And people like to limit, what you can say, what you can't say, what sex orientation, whatever the fuck you're allowed to express.
What these two evidently opposing wings have in common is the notion that the stuff that you consume dictates your behavior, right? Yep. So they're both blank slatists at their core. Both of these
they assume we're like tabula rasa, dude.
Right. The idea that there's nothing to you when you're born, but your behavior gets inscribed on you based on what you experience, which is true to an extent, right? But that's kind of takes out of the equation a lot of stuff. Like we actually got into the nature versus nurture argument back when we were doing anime. Go figure. Is we got into Nietzsche and the tabula rasa, but the idea that that nature versus nurture is not a conflict, right? It's a synergy.
It's a codependent causal relationship.
Yeah.
I'm letting my Buddhist leanings come out right now, bro.
Well, I didn't even know that was a Buddhist notion, but it's just evident if you just look at things, which I guess that is Buddhist in itself, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's it's kind of like take the color red, for example, right? Like red isn't really anything if you break it down, even just empirically, right? It's the electromagnetic spectrum plus sensory perception. And like those faculties that creates red, but without those, it's nothing. So it's empty of any kind of inherent, like permanent, like essence, right? And I think some people would be tempted to take that as being like, oh yeah, it's tabula rasa, but it's not really true, right?
Right, because we still like, there's a whole like dumbass first time getting stoned, like, what if your red isn't my red, dude? But we actually all have physiological reactions to seeing stuff like blood, and bulls, they don't actually give a fuck about the color red, but we use it in all kinds of things. And not to pair it with like purple, right? Like red and yellow looks cool together. Red and purple looks fucked up and weird. Red and black looks oddly sinister. So like there are these kind of like unspoken rules that are predicated on physiological responses that we all do share in common, unless you have some kind of, there's some kind of neurological anomaly going on with you, which does happen, but that's the exception that proves the rule.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, Kojima covered this as well, right? Like Metal Gear Solid 1, Genes. Sorry, this fucking playback echo is killing me, dude. Genes, Metal Gear Solid 1, memes, Metal Gear Solid 2, environmental context, Metal Gear Solid 3, right?
Yeah.
So these are all like interrelating, kind of like they all causally affect each other. And that is kind of, in a sense, what dictates like what a person becomes or what a person is, right? But yeah. So you could see where the impetus for like, well, shit, we really got to get this fucking environment under control, right? And we gotta really like mold people mimetically and get them to think a certain way. But they always just hyper focus and hyper fixate on one specific thing, typically, and to the detriment of something else that has a role to play as well. And hey, wouldn't you know it, it causes suffering.
Yeah. Did you ever read the Humanist Manifesto?
No.
They go hard into that, about how there needs to be like centralized control over education and media and all this kind of stuff. Basically like an office of tastemakers, like mandated by a central government to ensure that people get the proper exposure to the kind of things that will impel them to the behavior that's desired. And that it's an interesting read, but again, it's just a hyperfixation on one side of that coin that never actually lands, or rather is tossed over and over and over and over again. Because whenever we are faced with a choice or decision, one of those things is going to win out over the other, our nature or our nurture, so to speak. We're just using the colloquial terms here, but sometimes I'll want to do something and my better mind will get the better of me, and I'll be like, actually, it'll be more beneficial in the long run if I didn't do that. And then other times I'm just like, fuck it, that sounds fun right now to do. So I do know that it, and the ideas that I have about what would sound fun to do right at the moment, or the kind of goals that I want to work for, are informed by the stuff that I've been exposed to, or the kind of media that I'm consumed, for sure. It pretty much, I'm pretty sure we actually talked about this on another episode, or just maybe at another time. But, if I didn't hear rock music, then I wouldn't have given a fuck about playing guitar. Conversely, if I didn't give a fuck about playing guitar, then I never really would have gotten an idea of what the actual depths of music were, because it was dumbass rock music that got me to try to imitate it. But during the course of that imitation, I excavated something that was in myself already, right? That really, really wanted to plumb some depths that I didn't even know were there yet. But it was only because I was exposed to something that kind of unlocked that for me.
And
so,
see,
yeah,
that's kind of like where I wanted to jump off, right? Like, people talk about, okay, the media they consume, but the real question is what is it about a person that consumes that specific type of media? Like, instead of getting in a like fucking aggressive ass like punk rock and metal, like I could have gravitated towards indie rock, right? Which is, vastly contrasted, but I didn't. Now, why is that? Right? So there's definitely something inherent to me that is seeking that out.
Yeah, I mean, to clarify, in my case, it was Eric Johnson. That was the first time I ever heard, because I was listening to whatever my dad, when my dad, he had an office at home, and I would hang out and play games on his computers when he wasn't using them. And sometimes he'd be in there like working, and he'd play stuff, and it'd be Phil Keaggy or Eric Johnson or Joe Satriani and stuff like that. And I'd heard a lot of music before then, because I was like, 12 years old. But when I first heard that, I was like, no, that's the sound that music was made for. Like, that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And, he played guitar all my life too. So I grew up watching him play stuff that I didn't really care about. But, when I finally hit that, I was like, that's what's up, is the guitar makes the coolest noise. That's the coolest. And then I just happened accidentally to stumble upon punk. I was watching, we had you might actually know this, ZTV. It was like the Christian version of MTV.
No, thank God. I did never come across that one.
It was it was funny, dude. Like they had Jars of Clay and all these like CCM.
Well, I remember those bands like Switchfoot and shit.
Yeah, this predated Switchfoot by a little bit. This must have been like
but I'm not like super familiar with all the Christian bands,
Oh, I am. My folks were mega into it, so I got a lot of exposure, and all of it was, real fruity. Not my jam, but it's what I listened to because that's what I had. But then we were, I wasn't allowed to watch MTV when I was 10. So we were allowed to watch ZTV because it was all Christian bands, and they played a 90-Pound Wuss song, which I don't know if you ever heard of them, but it's just like real fucking rough, thrashy punk. And
what a name.
I was
90-Pound Wuss, dude. What a name.
Yeah. It's a great name. It's a great name. Real funny band. They actually got really interesting experimental later on too. And then
describing me in middle school, bro.
Yeah, all of us, right? They knew their audience. I wasn't 90 pounds and 10. Who am I joking? But
I know, man. I'm just it was a little bit later.
I'll post a song later, but it was ripping, and like the music video had the guys like running around the city, like jumping in and out of cabs, harassing people, wearing mohawks and stuff. And I was like, now, like I love the guitar, but now I know how cool it can really sound. So like there it is once again. Like I had to have the thing to reflect on in order to understand, what my actual proclivities were, because nobody else liked that. Like I had a lot of the people, and we were actually technically we got banned from watching ZTV after that music video came out. My mom was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "I fucking love it." And she was like, "If they're gonna play that kind of stuff, we're not watching this." No, so
Yeah, I think like every teenager has that experience where you finally find the thing, and you're just like, "Yes, this is me. This is everything that I feel." Someone gets me, and you just kind of everything falls into place, like your identity or whatever. I don't know how else to put it, and I think I've even said it on the pod before, but it's worth repeating.
Yeah, I mean, it's feasible that. Well, shit. I mean, I probably know people who never actually had that, which is too bad, right? Because that's something that you actually want. Because like what we're saying here is the kind of stuff that like you do have something. You do have like this sort of, my words are failing. You do have all these different facets of if you want to consider it like your central character or like your central characteristics. You do have all these facets like in you, but if you never get an opportunity to reflect on them, then there's a possibility that you'll just never actually discover them, right?
Yep. Also, they'll change potentially, right? Like that's the thing. That's the thing about
or just disappear.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Whatever. Like that's the thing with the neurosis, right? Like you live in America, you live in like Europe. everyone's so obsessed with like the idea that like people are just like static entities, and like society should be this like static entity that just doesn't change throughout time. And it's like, bro, like I could be pissed off right now, and then 5 minutes later I'll be chilling and laughing, right? Like that's not a problem. But people treat it like, oh, I have to be like, you know, the same guy constantly throughout my whole life. And then they look back and they see like their youth and they're like, oh man, I was an idiot. Or they get afraid of being old, right? And they're just like, I don't want to change into that, you know? And they just try to like get perpetually stuck in like a cult of youth. Have you noticed that?
No, I mean, yeah, completely. I've gone through that. I go through it every day. Every day. It's the, you know, there's one of my characteristics, I guess you could say. And it's one of those things that it's definitely I've seen reflected in other people. So I became self-conscious of it. But yeah. And tying that to the notion of like, are you talking about like national identity? Like the notion of like America as this, well, like,
that's a part of it, right?
Yeah.
That's just it in like a more, not universal, but it's a more abstract, you know, larger than yourself, like an individual, right? Like higher layer of the cake or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
But on the individual level too, like, you know, people will, let's say, like write somebody off because of something they did like 10 years ago. And it's like, man, in that intervening time, like you have no clue like what that person's like anymore. Like, honestly, I have a friend, man, who I didn't even like back in the day. He just kind of hung around with the same people. And past couple years, we like reconnected. I'm like, dude, you're actually like really sick now. And you don't do all the stupid shit that used to piss me off. And like, you're fucking like great. Like, we hang out all the time. So, yeah, definitely learn my lesson not to, you know, write people off and just kind of grant that change is, you know, a constant, and everything is, like you said earlier with the technology, man, it's all impermanent, right?
Right. And there's also kind of like a neurotic resistance to the maturation process. I picked this up. This wasn't my idea originally. I was hearing somebody talk about this, talking about tattoos, talking about this, like the notion that you should never get tattoos. You should never get tattoos because
in like 10 years, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, why the fuck did I get that? Or when you're 80 and your skin's sagging, it's going to look like shit.
It's going to look all dumb. You're going to feel
despite the fact
that
your whole body is probably covered in like those sunspots and like shit's hanging off your bones and your cock don't work. But hey, man. You got the tattoo, brother. Yeah. That was a mistake. That's going to be the one thing that's not going to get me laid, bro, is the tattoo. Oh, my God.
I really wish I didn't get this star on my hip because all the boys would still be after me at this point if I didn't have this star.
I can't sit at the bar and say, still got it.
I can't show my face with this faded sparrow beneath my earlobe.
Yeah. My tramp stamp doesn't look so good anymore when I'm taking back shots from your grandfather. Well, honey, Grandpa stopped giving you back shots like a decade ago. Let's be real.
Christ. I don't want to think about that kind of stuff.
Oh, it doesn't bother me, bro. I think it's funny.
My grandparents still go at it. I 100%. My grandma is one of those types, and my grandpa is, well, he's my dad's father. So, but what I was saying was that this guy was making the point that if you are afraid to look back at notions or beliefs that you once held and then later on found to be improper for you, then that is a phobia of the maturation process that you really need to examine. So you shouldn't be for one, he wasn't actually necessarily saying like, don't be afraid of getting tattoos that you might regret, because that's actually stupid advice. He wasn't saying that. But what he was saying was, he was speaking specifically about his tattoos, and he was like, that's what was important to me at the time. And I don't have any reason to be ashamed of still having these. And if people want to make snap judgments about me based on what they see, then that's on them. That's on them for being blind to the maturation process and making assumptions about other people based on their own lack of awareness of their maturation. This guy was me, by the way, talking about my straight edge tattoo. I'm just joking. That's not true.
No, see, I have none, and I just now at like 36 actually want to get a bunch. So it's funny how that works. I never really had a desire for it before, but I'm starting to get more into the idea. But on the note too, especially of like, having beliefs and shit, it's funny because a long time ago for me personally, I would get so invested in the whole like belief thing, and maybe it was a product of youth, but I grew pretty fast to just not take any of that shit seriously, especially because I know it's like a year from now I'm gonna have a completely different view on things, right? And I'm gonna look back and be like, yeah, why the hell did I ever think that? Not in like a I regret it kind of thing, just, well, that was wrong, right? So to me, it's just more fun to treat all that stuff as an entertainment product, something that I could play with, a toy, or perhaps something interesting to consider for a minute and then discard it.
Right. And like you said, like, when you're younger, then like, I think the first step to this whole like maturation awareness thing is, like you said, recognizing like, in a year, will I really care about this? Or I probably won't. So don't hold on to it too tightly, right? So that's like the first step to being aware of how the process works. But I think that it's also, you can actually go further than that by taking conscious control of it and speeding it up. Because what if it's not just a year, but what if it's a month? What if you completely, what if you completely revamp or renovate your whole outlook within a month? Well, what if it's a day? What if you do that every hour or every second? Like how much more interesting and honestly relaxing would it be to just not hold on to anything for even a second, right?
It's very liberating. I feel like tonight you've gone like Gautama HardCorey over here, dude, preaching liberation.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying shit.
No, I mean, it's true, though. It's so true. That's why I said I don't hold on to these things, and I get accused of being a nihilist a lot for that reason, but it doesn't really bug me, because I'll always say like, well, I don't consider myself a nihilist. They're like, that's exactly what a nihilist would say. And I'm like, oh,
fucking got you, dude.
Well, I got no argument, bud. But hey, man, whatever label you want to use, I could really give a shit, right?
Right.
Listen, I grew up on punk rock, bro. We don't believe in labels.
Yeah, I'm a punk. Don't you get it wrong. And punks don't believe in labels.
Yeah, bro. Ignore the studded jacket and mohawk. All right.
Yeah, you don't know shit about me, and you can tell because of the way that I look and present myself. Yeah, I don't know. That was just a thing that occurred to me, and it came to mind while we were talking about the notion of identity, right? Where like you feel like you have to be this specific person. And I guess that, I mean, look, we recognize that having a sense of consistency in our lives is important, because it's comforting, because life is chaotic. There's no way that we can have any idea generally of what's happening in 1% of the world at any time, let alone the whole thing. And so just the chaos of driving to work every day, like stuff, all kinds of crazy shit can happen just on your regular morning commute. There's no real consistency as soon as you wake up. things are completely up for grabs, right? So having a sense of consistency, like, and internalizing that and being like, well, I know how I'm going to react to this. Like, I know what people are going to think of me. I feel like that is a very understandable cope for dealing with the kind of inconsistency and chaos that would make that it makes us anxious because we want to be able to project our the results of our actions, right? We want to be able to say, yeah, I'm working toward this thing and I'm going to get consistent returns on it, which is why I'm putting in effort right now. And that belief is assailed by the constant fluctuation in value and commitment that we see around ourselves and other people, and like the, whatever we identify with is would be it a city or state or nation or even just the world at large. So I do understand sort of like adopting a persona and really hardcore LARPing it, just so that you can say like, well, it's those things out there that are unpredictable. And at least I know how I'm going to deal with it when it happens to me,
Yeah, I understand. It's just, I'm weird. So like trying to have like a consistent persona when I was really young, honestly, it just caused a lot of like depression and shit for me. And like a lot of harder, I don't know what it was specifically, but like the more I try to have like consistency and like control over things, it just feels like I would just get like either like depressed when it didn't work out, or like I'd get really like fucking pissed when plans didn't go through and I got all psyched up for it. So like honestly, I just learned to throw all that shit to the side and just fucking wing it. That exists, right? Like we have genres of mental illness. It's called subcultures, and they all wear the same shit.
You are not going to get me to say stuff that would be inappropriate for casual YouTube viewing, but gold darn if you aren't trying. But yeah, that's true. I mean, we talked about like punk subculture before, but all that stuff comes from neurosis, right? Like that all comes from trying to deal with internal stuff that bothers you, that you haven't really been able to bring to the surface and come to terms with and integrate, right? Like all of that stuff is projection at some level. You got metalheads, you got punks, you got,
Yep. Dude, I turned 30. I threw out all of my metal shirts, dude. I cut off my hair, and then I lasted like 3 years, and I was like, you know what? Like wearing like more like normie shit, whatever. And I was just like, you know what? I fucking hate this. I'm buying my shirts again.
Yes, I mean, once that, I think that's an important phase everybody goes through too, is being like, man, the shit, this is fucking stupid. Like everything that we're doing is stupid. And that's a good phase to go through no matter what. And this goes back again to like, well, what if I change my beliefs in a year? Like, wouldn't it be more efficient if you just did it every instant? But we don't have that luxury.
Not for my wallet, right? Because then I'd be buying new clothes like every day.
Well, for a little while, and then eventually you just have all the clothes. So whatever you felt like that day.
Well, thank God men's fashion doesn't really change, right? it's always going to be a t-shirt.
I don't know, man. There was this is a thing that I've noticed. Like when I was the age of like college kids, when I was fucking weird way to say it. When I was a college age, everybody wore jeans. No, it did, whatever. If you wore like baggy jeans when I was younger, and then like skinny jeans got to be hip when I was a teenager, older teenager. Nobody wears denim jeans anymore. Girls do, but guys, they're like, everybody's wearing like, they look like fucking pajama pants, or they're wearing
Jinko's
joggers.
Bag, baby.
No shit. Who's wearing Jinkos now?
I don't know. I see it, man. The big ass baggy pants, dude. The fucking Guido chain.
No,
the Guido chain on the broccoli haircut.
Dude, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Zubas are back.
Oh shit.
you remember talking about Matthias Steele a little while, or
Yeah.
Matthias Steele. Talking about that a while ago, and I was asking you who that band was, the guy wearing Zubas. You sent the video, and like I was watching, and I decided to look up like what happened to Zubas, because like I'm barely old enough to remember, guys that my dad hung out with would occasionally be rocking some Zubas. They're back, dude. They're back. You can they're expensive, but they're all printed up with like different football teams logos, which is exactly what you'd expect, right?
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, it's the thing too. Is every now and again, like people will be like, "Yo, what the fuck? Like, why were you? Why'd you cut your hair, dude? And like, why? All this stuff." And it's just like, chill. Like, who cares? It's just a thing. I'll change, and then I did, and then people will still be like, "Oh, I can't believe you did that." And it's like, well, I can believe I did that. What does it matter?
It's that same thing though about inconsistency making people nervous, right? Like they even want people that they know to show up looking the same all the time, or having the same perspectives on stuff. It makes you feel safe in a way, I guess. But
I find it boring, honestly.
Well, yeah, as I was just saying, like it's possible that the only real step to take once you're at that point is just to accept that you're not safe, right?
So I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I was asked by I don't remember. Someone asked me. Even my wife has asked me this. Like, how have you been like married for so long with the same person? Because you're always just like, jumping on from like one thing to another, right? And I'm like, well, because people are interesting, right? Like, she's not the same person that she was 13, 15 years ago, however the fuck long it's been. And neither am I, right? So there's obviously a kernel of similarity. Sorry, I'm getting fucked over by the headphones again. There's a kernel of similarity and shit, but it's interesting kind of taking that journey with somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. Having shared experiences and watching how somebody else develops from them, that actually that brings me back to something that I actually didn't put in my notes, but I'm glad that you reminded me of it. Our last show, we were talking about like you said something like, why do genre music? Why would you do that? Like the genre's already been done, and I had a response, not an argument or anything, because it's not it's not like a position, it's not a hill to die on or anything, but I do find it interesting to select like a static point and then watch how individuals approach it or react to it, or because they always find a slightly different orbit. And if you find like the central premise of that static point interesting, then it becomes really, really fun and satisfying to watch individuals interact with it.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I've regretted ever since taking such a hard fucking stance on it. But again, I guess this goes back to what I was saying, where I don't think the stance was like personally that hard, because I knew I was going to probably think of something. It's like, actually, as we were in the middle of talking about the resurgence of like hack and slash, I should have been, if I was consistent, fuck that. Why is it coming back? But here I am all excited to see like what people can do with it now, with like modern development and technology and shit. And where they could take elements of where games are at now and see if they can incorporate some of that shit into the genre that wasn't there before. So yeah, man, I definitely am on the same page.
Yeah, and like I said, that this isn't like a counter argument. I'm like taking you to task or anything, because
no, it's fine.
All we do is say shit and then see what happens when people hear it.
It's just in that moment when I was riffing on that, I was just concerned with like novelty and exploring those possibilities, right? And I'm like, fuck do I want this old shit? I've heard it before.
It's a good question. It's something that it's a question that you should ask before you creatively engage with anything. It's like for me, I'm out here like writing dumb like pop punk, and I'm finding real interesting ways to express. And once again, we get back to that like object versus subject relationship where one informs the other, right? Where you're sort of trying to manifest an ideal that doesn't really exist, but what it does is it gives you the opportunity to expose or excavate some personal tendency of yours that you have this subconscious need to really let out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's even impersonally, you hear a potential in something that was never fully realized, right?
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
You go, man, I really wish a band that was doing X genre sounded this way, or had these kinds of riffs or rhythms or what have you, right?
Lyrical. Well, we're saying the same thing though. We're saying the same thing because what you're saying is like really wishing that such and such a band did things this way. That's what I mean by like having a part of yourself that really wants to be expressed and discovering, a potential venue for that expression. So, it's an innate thing that wants to get out. And when you find the opportunity to do that, it doesn't matter how necessarily, it doesn't really matter the, like the static object or, the whatever it is that we're approaching, but it's more about how we approach it, because that's the thing that only you can do, right? Like it's the joke about like writing punk music. It's like, like 3 chords, like anybody can do that. And you say like, yeah, well, I'm the one that did it.
It's 3 chords and the truth, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
The truth about late stage capitalism.
Who came up with 3 chords and the truth?
I have no fucking clue.
Nah, that
I have a feeling it was like some Bob Dylan shit.
Dude, I was just gonna say that it always like evoked to me some kind of like defense of like real fucking mediocre folk shit, right?
Yeah, because he had the thing on his guitar. It said like "This machine kills fascists" or some shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
It's attributed to a country songwriter, dude, Harlan Howard, whoever the hell that is.
Oh, dude, you don't know Harlan Howard?
No, I don't know country, man.
No, I mean, I've never heard of him either.
Classic. I do. I love those old like country like music videos or even just like album covers where the guys just look like they don't know what the fuck to do. They look like they feel like they should be smiling on camera, but they look awkward as hell. They have like no stage presence whatsoever.
Right. They look real stiff and they've got like it's just like that thing where you put like your 4 fingers into your pockets, but your thumbs are hanging out. And then like your shoulders are hunched up and you've got like that flat face smile where like you're showing your teeth and grinning, but your eyes are just like dead.
Yeah. I was eating at this Mexican restaurant and they had this live performance by, I don't know, whatever it is, like Tejano or some shit. Right. And the entire backing band in the back was just like that, dude, like super stiff, dead eyes. They could tell when the camera would be on them because they try to like force some kind of grin or something, and they just look like fucking autists. And then even the vocalist, dude, like when the one guy wasn't singing, he would just like stand there like a fucking stone. And then at random parts, he's like, oh shit, I should do something. And he starts like breaking out a little dance and he just goes back stiff again.
Man, look, I played in a handful of bands and some for a long time. And like, I fucking hated watching video or seeing photos of myself because that's what I looked like every fucking time. Fucking my face was like a goddamn Maori head just staring at my fretboard, just like paying the utmost close attention because you know, some people are born performers, right? Some people really thrive off of energy, of the attention given to them. It excites them and
This
it
guy right here.
motivates them. Well, oh yeah, okay, right, yeah.
You saw the Judas
So-
Priest fucking video. No, dude, like
Wait.
here's the thing too, like playing guitar or whatever. I would love to be like running around, right? Like playing it. But maybe I just need to play more. But yeah, if I'm not staring at the fretboard sometimes, bro, like I'm just sitting there making the and I do this like stupid like you know, you ever see like drummer face, right? When they're
Yeah.
concentrating. I make that face when I'm playing fucking guitar, dude, and I hate like seeing videos of it. Like if I ever send a video of like me playing guitar, I always crop my fucking face out. And even my wife has been like, "What the hell is that face you're making?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm concentrating. I'm really trying to nail this fucking riff, dude."
Yeah.
Like once I have it committed, like really well, like it goes away. But shit, yeah, I'd love to be able to just like fucking dive off shit with the guitar, you know?
Dude, that was always my dream, right? But like every single time I got up on stage, it was literally like, you know, just spread your legs, guitars all down low, fucking bob your head a little bit while you're just putting 110% of your concentration onto making sure that you nail the riff, and then get up to the mic and sing some shit. And then like you forget that you might look weird because you're focusing so hard and trying to get the licks down while you're singing and like hitting the notes. And like you go back to it, and then afterward, like you're like, fucking A, I nailed that. I did everything right. I didn't fuck up. I got, you know, everything.
Like, yeah,
was,
but I didn't look good doing it. So
that's
the whole thing
you
is fucking shot.
Then you watch a video of it and you look like a goddamn robot, and you're like, well, hell, what do I got to do?
So funny. It cracks me up with the music videos because like they don't really have to like play.
Yes. Well, see, that's the thing, right? Is like that was my whole conceit behind the idea for like my Private Enemy music video, where nobody's really playing anything. Like we'll have like buckets for drums and like playing pool noodles, and we'll have like a Guitar Hero guitar, and then like an acoustic guitar for the other like lead, and you know, just have all these gags that like really, really go in on the fact that in music videos, nobody's actually doing anything, you know, musically.
Yeah.
They're just doing shit that looks cool for the camera. But no, there's also like, I've seen bands that absolutely rip it on stage. Like it gets stupid. The kind of shit that they pull, like was Funeral for a Friend. They pulled this crazy thing where the two guitarists, like they went to opposite sides of the stage. It was a big ass stage, man. Like, this is like a major festival, and they went to opposite sides of the stage, and in the middle of like a drum break, they took off their guitars and they threw them across the stage and caught each other's guitars, and then like picked back up the riffs, like that kind of thing. Like, or you know, you've seen the whole thing where like dudes will come up and like they'll put their guitars together and like do this weird like semi-homo like tapping each other's fretboards type of thing during a solo with harmonies. Like all that stuff is so rehearsed. Like you have to practice so hard for all that stuff. So I just assume that having like charismatic stage presence is like, maybe it's a thing that you're born with, that, you know, you get like, you're motivated to pursue, but
yeah, but
it
you
also
still have
takes
to fucking practice it, right?
Oh,
like the
lot,
moves,
dude.
right?
A
Like you'll get an
lot,
idea.
yeah. Right. But no, that stuff is like so rehearsed, and like not knocking it by any means, because it looks fucking dope. But
yeah, you can't just like randomly bust out shit like that, like some choreographed ass, like, oh, I'm gonna play on your guitar, dude, like out of nowhere.
No, or even some like guitar swings, you know.
Oh yeah,
like we all practice those, of course, but like, dude, trying to do that shit on stage is so risky.
I can't.
Like,
I have an
it's
imbalanced ass like fucking Jackson Randy Rhodes, dude. Like, yeah, that shit won't spin. It'll just fucking catch on something. I'll stab myself in the eye, dude, with the fucking V.
Or we've all seen the video where the dude tries to bust out a guitar swing during some kind of like outdoor gig, and he hits the singer in the face. But yeah, no, all that stuff is definitely cool to look at. But they make it look effortless.
Well,
and
think about it, right? Like you played those songs, what 200 times? What are you gonna do to make it interesting?
Yeah,
I mean, what's the point of a rehearsal after a certain point? It's like, dude, what kind of crazy shit can we come up with to do on stage?
Yes, when I played with my old band, that was the kind of stuff that I did. As I would come up with like goofy things to do, like do the put your both hands over the fretboard like it's a piano and like tap stuff out, or try to play stuff like by flicking the strings with your tongue, that kind of thing. You just come up with stuff like that to keep things interesting, because you do play these songs over and over until they're so ingrained you actually get bored, and because you're not actually having to put that much effort into it. So at that point, you just start drinking a lot, and just like, how drunk do I have to be before I can't play this song anymore?
Yeah, that's my life plan is how drunk do I need to be able to do vocals, but not like forget everything that I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to experiment with.
It is. There's always a fine line between a specific amount of whiskey and being able to have like the best pipes in the world, or at least like for screaming shit, right?
Did you ever play Burnout?
I'm just like sound like shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, vocals are an especially tricky thing. Did you ever play the Burnout games though? Any of the Burnout games? I used to have what I called the Burnout threshold. So it was like, if you drink a little bit, you get a lot better at Burnout. But like,
for me, that was Call of Duty.
Yeah, Warzone. I mean, it applies. Yeah, the threshold's probably different for different games, but I'm sure it's really fucking similar between all these like reflex-based games.
Yeah, me and my buddies and my brother used to play Warzone when it came out, and me and my brother would drink, and we do phenomenal up to a certain point that we kept drinking, and then we just do shittier and shittier. But we'd be like fucking like top exfil squad or whatever, go play multiplayer, dude, like 52 and like 1, and it's like, oh shit. Like I drank too much.
There's a very distinct line that you cross, and it's it's the same thing for performing too. Obviously the more familiar you are with it,
well, people are like, why
the higher
do people
your
like drinking?
threshold, but
what's wrong, dude? What are you coping with? No, I actually just want to be really good at things. Okay. I want to be in that pocket for like an hour, dude, where I'm a god.
Yeah.
Objectively, it's not just that I'm like drunk and like confident. It's like, no, I'm objectively good at this.
No, it does. It is. That's a real thing.
It's a real thing. It's fucking wonderful, and you wonder why people get addicted to alcohol.
I'm not sure if that's the reason.
No, I don't think it is, but legit, it's like the primary motivator for me.
Yeah, I'm not an alcoholic. I can't quit playing Burnout.
I'm not an alcoholic, bro, but I'm really trying to nail this fucking lead part in Twisted Sister.
I'm not really an alcoholic, but my KDR is fucking ripping.
Bro, look. I want to get top squad in Warzone, dude. I need to drink tonight. Wife,
I used to do that with
work. Dude, your daughter's been screaming for hours. What? I had my headphones on. I'm drinking with the boys. Like, God.
Yeah.
That never happened, by the way.
No, of course not, man. No, of course not.
Nah, dude. It's just theoretical, dude. Hypothetical. I did actually eat breakfast this morning. Or however that goes. You remember that shit?
Yeah, good for you. What, breakfast?
Well, there's that whole thing with people who understand like hypotheticals, and they're like, how would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning? You're like, but I did.
Yeah, right.
That's all I was saying. I actually never eat breakfast. So
I read you. Yeah, well, we'll call it a night for now. So thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Good talks. And we'll do the normal thing, I guess. Find all of our individual projects. Look up my stuff, Skew Composite, and keep your eyes peeled. Brandon's project doesn't have a name, but it's coming out pretty soon. So stand by for it.
Yeah, it's actually a parody project of yours. It's going to be called Private Enema.
That's a pretty good private enema of the state.
Hey.
Private enema of the State of the Union. Private Enemy of the State of the Union Jack. Private Enemy of the State of the Union Jack off. That's
you'll get there. Next episode, you'll have a bunch ready.
Yeah, give me a little bit of time. I got to workshop this. And then, Jake's stuff is out there under Terror Bond, and Isaac's, neither of them were with us tonight, but you can find Isaac's stuff under Get Six and find No Uncertain Terms Productions. Just search the name and the shit pops up because I'm a goddamn maestro of SEO. Actually, there's another No Uncertain Terms Productions out there somewhere, but you'll know.
I found it the other day, actually. I was trying to find the
British
channel,
guys?
dude, and I was like, yeah, the British guys.
Yeah.
I didn't have the heart to tell you.
No, I already knew about it, but they're literal nobodies like us. So it's just like it's a race to the top, right?
Yeah, it's like when I was trying to find a YouTube channel for our various names, and like I kept finding shit, but it was like one fucking video by a Vietnamese guy.
Yeah, Vietnam, really?
Yeah, dude, it was some Vietnam guy who clearly was just spelled the word wrong. It just so happened to be the spelling that I picked deliberately.
Oh, that fucking rules.
Yeah, it rules, but it also sucks.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, anyway, find our stuff on YouTube. We got some gaming videos coming out. Like I always say, we're all gamers here. Fucking hating wokeness and wearing Joker masks and Guy Fawkes masks and January 6th wasn't an insurrection. We're actually going to put some gaming videos up before too long, so just stand by for those because they will probably be something that you can watch most of without clicking off. Good shit. But as for the rest of the stuff that I was going to say, Lord knows. So everybody have a good night, and as we always say, it ain't my tragedy.